Welcome to the Earthworks Podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Simmons, and this is the Earthworks Podcast. We are actually live at the New England Trade Show, and I'm here with a dear friend, Ed Olsen, who I've known for, my God, 20-some years. We've been on road trips together. We've gotten in trouble together. We've had some fun together working with the Tom Irwin Company in Massachusetts. Ed is at the city of Needham, Massachusetts, which is where? So everybody knows where you are.
Yeah, it's outside of Boston by about 10-15 minutes in the suburbs of Boston.
So you can tell by the accent that that's legitimate. How long have you been there? I don't even know.
14 years.
Wow.
That's my 14th year.
Yeah.
Yeah, time flies.
So let's start with a little bit of your history. Before you got into Needham, what were you doing?
I was a golf course superintendent before I got to Needham.
Yes. And you couldn't wait to get out. It's like,
Well, it's
get me
funny.
out of this shit.
It's funny. I still love golf,
Yeah,
and it wasn't the first of my career. I was a Brockton school teacher, the city of Brockton, where I grew up. The city of champions: Rocky Marciano, Marvin Hagler, Edward Olsen.
all the champions.
Yeah, you can see by my black hat.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
now.
Did you win?
I would call it a draw.
That's a draw.
Yeah, a draw. So I grew up in Brockton, and I went to UMass Amherst, and I graduated with a degree, a history degree. And while I was there for 4 years at UMass Amherst, I got to know a lot of guys in the turf program. And upon graduating, I started getting my master's in education. I was a behavior modification classroom teacher in the city of Brockton for several years. And
I've known you for how long? I
Yeah,
have no idea
yeah,
that.
well,
I
there
never
you
knew
go.
that.
Yep. So it wasn't. So long story short, one of my students, dear student of mine, bit a chunk of my arm off. Believe it or not, true story. I was being sewn up in a hospital, and I just said, kind of had an epiphany that I didn't really like working indoors. I really loved my kids and I loved being a teacher, but I was trying to have second thoughts. So
After being bit?
after being bit, I said, is this really what I want the rest of my life? And I went back to my days at UMass, and I had stayed in touch with some golf course superintendents that were good friends of mine, and was always impressed with their happiness, their level of happiness, and their
They're outside. They're doing
Yeah,
work,
so
that
I
kind of stuff. They weren't
decided
getting
to-
bit by their employees.
yeah,
do they?
exactly. Yeah, so they had good lives and were making good money, and I had a lot of fun, and I really loved being outdoors. I'd always loved landscape, and I'd landscaped. I had my own company growing up in high school, and so I went back to UMass, and I got a second degree of BS in plant and soil science, and I have a great degree in BS.
Yes, you've been that master for years.
No, just a bachelor.
Yeah. Oh, a master of BS.
Yes,
Well,
yeah, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And after that, I ironically took a summer job at Thorny Lee Golf Club in Brockton, and I have good stories about that opportunity, and that kind of led me into a golf career.
Wow, that's what year is this?
That was the 1990s, so 96, 97, 98.
Probably about the time or just a little bit before I met you.
Yeah, pretty much.
So this all started from some kid trying to rip your arm off.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, how bad was it?
Oh, I have a pretty good bite scar mark.
you
on
still
my-
have
on my
it?
forearm. Oh, it's still to this day. Yeah.
tattooed and highlighted.
Yeah. The ironic part is that the student that bit me, his name was Curtis Jackson, and he was in foster care, and he had a lot of struggles going on. And I can't blame him for biting me. He had a lot of problems in his life, and ironically, that's the name of 50 Cent, the rapper. And I always wonder if that was the Curtis Jackson that bit me, because boy, I'd probably be really popular now. I could
He
reach back and say,
he could've
50,
been somebody.
take
Hey,
care of me a little
See
bit.
this?
Yeah,
This is
so I wonder if that was the Curtis Jackson
Yeah,
from back
I-
then. Could
I-
be.
Yeah, but you never know. You never know. Has anybody bit you since?
I can't say on camera.
Okay, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So you came out of school, and your
Yes.
first job was
So I did a summer job at Thorny Lee Golf Club, which I called an internship. So
Yeah.
my dad had a friend, Steve Rowan, who was the Greens Committee chairman at Thorny Lee. And Thorny Lee was an inner city golf club that was a pure golf club, and it was known in Massachusetts as some of the best golfers, but it was really in the heart of the city.
in Boston.
In Brockton.
Oh, in Brockton. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, because my dad called Steve, and Steve said, Ed, if you're going to go to school for this, you should work the summer at Thorny Lee, get your feet wet. I have connections because I'm the boss, and I'll introduce you to the superintendent, and you can work for the summer here. So Steve said, come Friday afternoon, you'll meet Joe Ripka. Joe's the superintendent. So I'll never forget, Steve brought me on his golf cart to the halfway house. And there was Joe. And Joe used to dress like suit and tie to work. He was like always known as
In the
very,
mid-90s.
yeah, oh yeah, as a consummate gentleman and real old school. And he said, jump on. And he had a golf cart. And okay, see you, Steve. And Joe and I drove off. And he said, kid, I don't like you already because you're Stevie's boy. And I don't appreciate you getting this job because you know Steve. And I said, boy, this isn't going well.
This is your first day?
Yeah, no, not even first day, the first ever interaction.
The first conversation. Yeah.
First
By the way, kid, I don't like
right
you.
away he said, I don't like you. And
I was just
boy.
about to ask you about the networking too, but obviously that's
well, it
probably-
gets better. So I said, oh, well, and he said, you college kids, you can never make it on time. You drink too much. I said, I'm not a college kid. I'm getting my master's. And I tried to even speak, but he wasn't listening to anything. He said, all right, be here at 6 o'clock. You're going to do the worst jobs I have all summer. You're going to be the lowest leg in the totem pole. So it was a great start for me because it was a tight-knit group. And I was one of 4 guys that had a greens route. So we cut greens in the morning, we do bunkers, then we
He
weed
gave you
whack.
the greens mowers?
Oh, yeah.
That was the shittiest job on the course?
Well, walking greens. So there were
Oh,
like
okay.
4
All right,
people that, you'd
right.
have to hump it because we hand cut every day. So, and then you go into rotary work, but I loved it. So, and halfway through the season, all the guys kind of rallied behind me and I come in and say, what's my name? Augusta. And they'd yell Augusta because my lines are so straight. We'd have contests about straight lines. And Joe used to hate it. He'd say, hey, pipe down Olsen once a week doesn't cut it, with your lines. I said, whoa, Joe doesn't give me no credit here. So fast forward last week of the summer. All right, Olsen, you made it through the summer. You weren't late. He's like, I'm going to show you a couple things. Mow fairways, get on the spray rig. Thanks, Joe. Off and running. Go to UMass, go to New York, get a job, come back to Massachusetts at my first superintendent's job back in Mass, and I'm at my first New England meeting like this. First person I see at the dinner meeting, Joe. Hey, Olsen, I can't believe you got a big job. He said, listen, remember, tonight, you're my boy. He goes, I tell everybody how I mentored you. And I said, Joe, you never mentored me in anything. He said, not tonight, Olsen. He said, just tell everybody how I was your... So I guess Joe was one of my mentors in the golf business.
Oh, that's funny.
And God bless him.
Where's he now?
He passed away several
what I
years
thought. Yeah,
ago.
I'm
But
sorry
he
to
was a
hear that.
legend of the business.
Yeah. Oh, that's too
And
funny.
a legendary pain in the ass,
Yeah.
too.
So literally the first day on that job, you were mowing greens?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
Learning how to mow greens. And again,
I would have thought that he would have given you like a weed whacker and said, go off to the
we
corner.
did that afterwards. The
Yeah.
first thing was mow greens
Every
in the
morning.
morning, then hand rake the bunkers, and then you went into what he called rotary work. And each person, the 4 guys, had sections of the golf course. So, like I said, we built a camaraderie where we'd compare our sections against each other, and it kind of set the tone for teamwork, competition, tomfoolery, some
Right.
joking,
As it
and
should
I loved it, And then I went off to school, like I said, and
Where
met
are
other
those
people.
guys? Are they still in the industry?
yeah, so
Some of them-
those
I
guys
was gonna
from
say, I
that
bet there's some
job
stories there.
are still at Thorny Lease. So
Oh, they're still there?
yeah. So 4 of them are still there. The mechanic Ray Sands, and James, and a couple of the other guys who are still there, who have been through several superintendents after Joe, and they're still
that's too
there.
funny.
So yeah, testimony to our
So
business.
was Joe a mentor?
He was, yeah. I mean, as a mentor, Joe, I learned a lot from Joe, and one thing was he was a dapper Don. He dressed the part.
Yeah, what's up
Joe
with that in the 90s?
and Lenny Blodgett's and other old school guys really wanted to show that professionalism, and that meant dressing up. It meant playing with the membership. Joe never got his hands dirty. He would go around in the morning. He did a lot of paperwork, and then he'd play with the members in the afternoon. He was a really good
played
golfer. He played golf. So he
His
was
cone tie?
no, he'd get
He would
changed,
go
but
change, put on his golf
he
attire.
had his own locker, the locker room, and
course he did.
everything. So, I think
How long was he there? I mean, he had to have been.
decades.
I was gonna say he had. I mean,
decades.
classic old school
Yeah,
story.
yeah. He was a classic old school kind of guy, but he was one of many mentors that I've had.
It's funny because I was going to bring this up, but then you talk about getting your ass kicked by the networking opportunity. I mean, one of the questions that I get from especially a lot of guys, and when I was teaching at Rutgers, this came up all the time. How do we get anywhere? And it's who do you know? I mean, you talk to the people that you know, and here you have a great story. You talk to somebody you know, and you get your ass kicked in the first 2 minutes of the conversation. But as you worked your way through it, but. That's a challenge for young guys in this industry. How do you start? And then you get these guys that are like, well, it's not fair. These guys know people. Well, that's how you get anywhere. You got to know
Absolutely.
somebody, and
Gotta
you
put
know,
in the
and then
effort.
when you get your ass kicked on the other end of it, you got to work your way through it because it's a two-edged sword a lot of times. So, you know, that's a great story. I think it's one of the classic stories. So you went from there back to UMass, and then you were out in New York. Where were you at in New York?
Yep, I worked at Delwood Country Club down
Okay.
in New York.
As an intern in school?
As a assistant superintendent.
This was your first job out of school.
First job out of school, I did a short stint at Spring Valley, which I went later back to become the golf course superintendent there. So I did a short stint
So that's
there,
how you
and
got-
then I got a job as an assistant superintendent in New York, which was a great opportunity because
Yeah.
speaking of networking, you know, at lunch we had our NESMA lunch, and I congratulated George on his scholarship at UMass. We
Nice.
talked a little bit, and I said, obviously, you can come work for me this summer because he's in Norwood, Massachusetts, next to Needham, but he has a job in New Hampshire at a golf course. And he asked me some advice. I said, you know, lunches like this, networking, not being afraid to go visit other golf courses. When I was down in New York, I'd go cold call other superintendents and just get to know Alonzi and Dave Rule and people all over Westchester. And you got to put in the work. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and then I started making little, almost mini network groups where we'd all meet for a beer and we'd talk turf, and then we'd have some fun. And it's important. I think my advice is, you know, kind of what I was lucky at UMass. I met a lot of people that were in the program, but what I learned from my experience was getting down to New York and getting to those
Yeah,
big
yeah,
name
yeah.
clubs because they had housing, lodging, opportunities for internships.
Perfect.
And while you're down there, make the most. Become a member of the Met. You know, get into some golf tournaments, meet some other assistants, start networking, meet
Right.
some superintendents, and the world is your oyster. Because if you put yourself out there, usually you'll get some.
So
some
you're
return.
an assistant superintendent in Westchester County, and you're going over to Wingfoot and introducing yourself
Oh, sure.
to Alonzi's and
Well, Joe was at Westchester,
Joe.
but yeah, Elmwood, yeah. And,
How was the response? I mean, did that?
yeah, well,
So
good.
he was open to you walking in as a punk kid assistant at another course down the road. That's
I
brilliant.
had a
man.
lot of chutzpah, so
Yeah,
I don't think
you
he had
still
any say in it. You know, I just kind of say,
I'm
"Hey,
here.
I'm here." Yeah,
What do you want? What do you want me to do?
yeah. I just wanted to introduce myself, and
And
just-
you weren't going there to play golf. You were going
No,
there to
no.
introduce the guy.
Yeah, I wanted to see the turf. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to play golf at all. I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to go take a ride and take a look at his green.
Yeah, that's what you know.
Pick his brain.
Yeah, a lot of guys are hey, Wingfoot's ready. Let's go see if we can play golf. But you know, that doesn't.
I could play golf every day at the
Yeah,
week at my own
exactly.
club or anywhere
Yeah.
else. I wanted to go talk turf and pick the brains of some of these guys.
So you got to know Joe a little bit.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And many
see
other
the
good
property.
superintendents,
Yeah.
as you know, down there.
Well, some of
our
the best
friends
golf
and students
yeah.
of yours. So.
Some of the best golf in the free world is right there.
Yeah.
You know, some of the best golf courses. But yeah, that's a great lesson to be learned. I mean, just go and cold call people and just help.
you
You
go.
know, I mean, think about what you're doing. You're putting yourself out there and you're saying, help me.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody wants to help somebody.
Yeah, it's kind of endearing, right?
especially in our industry. That's one of the greatest things
Yes.
about this industry is that people will help you. You know, I mean, it's not like we're competing with each other. You're there to to support each other, and the community is incredible. So you're down there doing all this networking. Did any of that lead to the next step, or how did you get to?
It did. The superintendent I worked for ended up leaving the club, so I was able to take over as the superintendent of that club, which
How old were you?
I was in my 30s at that point because
Okay.
I had taught and I'd kind of
Because
bounced around a little
you'd
bit.
had a previous career, so you weren't.
And I'd spent some, I was down at Delwood for 5 years. So this is 2002 through 2004 when I came back for the Spring Valley job. And New York was great. I mean, Delwood was an incredible golf club.
Yeah.
It was a high-end private Jewish country club, like an old school Jewish country club, which was exclusive.
Yeah, like many of them are down there.
And it had a history that I really liked. It was a Tillenhouse design.
Oh wow.
And it was the property
know
of
that.
Adolf Zucker, who was the richest man in America back in the 20s and 30s. He was an Austrian Jew that emigrated to America, to New York. And he started Paramount Pictures. He was the owner of Paramount
that's right.
Pictures.
That's
and
I
he
know that.
became the most successful, the richest man in the country. And Delwood was his private summer estate. We had castles on the golf course, and he had lodging for the movie stars. So the movie stars used to come and spend the summer, play golf, go to the city, be on the Hudson, and And it was just a special property. It had trees imported from all over the world. So the tree species, the placement, everything about the golf course was really like a magical place. So
I had no idea. That's a fascinating story.
yeah, so I lived in like a stone manor on the
So
golf
you lived
course.
on
I felt like a
property.
king. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where all the movie stars had been.
Yeah, pretty much.
Were there
Where they
signatures?
filmed the original Tarzan. If you ever see the original Tarzan when we swing into a little Mr. America or whoever
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
that was filmed at
Oh, that's too funny.
back whenever it was.
That's too
Yeah.
funny. That's too funny.
In that golf course, I experienced not only connections with people that were very interesting members that I became friendly with, but our general manager, we had a couple general managers, but one was from Romania, a Cornell grad, and we used to go to Romania and recruit laborers to come work at the club because we'd hire like 100 people a year, and we had lodging for over 100 people, so it brought us to Romania and beyond.
That place has lodging for 100 people?
Yeah. Well, like I said, he had built it out to basically be a summer estate
for his
it was a
starlet.
special spot.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stories in those walls.
Oh yeah, just for me alone.
Well, before your days.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, with your days, no question about
Yeah,
that.
no doubt.
So now where are we going from there?
Yeah, fast forward, I think that experience brought me back to Spring Valley. They were looking for new leadership, and again, it was
So you were at Spring Valley, then you left, and then the superintendent left, and they called you back in.
yes.
Oh, good. So you
And
already
Spring
knew
Valley
everybody.
was a private Jewish club, so they had called.
Where is that?
Delwood. It's in Sharon, Massachusetts, and
Which is where, so everybody knows.
yeah, not too far from Needham, not too far from Boston.
So you're close to where you are now still.
Yeah, and kind of close by Brockton from where I grew up. So I came back to family and friends. It was kind of a homecoming for me. It was nice to get back. I mean, even though I loved living down in New York, I loved the Met, but it was nice to get back to family and friends. And had my start there, and it was all velvet bentgrass greens.
How many years were you under before you got your superintendent? How many years were you on the golf course before you got that?
Not long,
Yeah, I was gonna say you're pretty.
couple years.
Yeah, I was
and,
gonna say
I
you're
was an
pretty quick.
assistant, then a superintendent.
Which is why your old mentor was like, "You got,
you
kid.
Yeah,
I
he was like,
remember
"Get
you,
back,
punk
yeah,
kid.
Beverly, here, come
You're,
on."
yeah, you
You're
were
a
gonna make
Swedish
it from
boy.
day one.
Yeah.
Right. You're his boy. Yeah, he taught
My
you
mentor.
everything. Yeah, he taught you everything you
And
knew.
it's funny because I went from Joe. So Joe was the intern a summer. Then I went to school, and right off the bat, I guess my second internship was with Tim Strano for Concord Country Club.
Okay.
A beautiful Donald Ross course.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Tim Strano was one of the greatest minds of agronomy at the time. I don't know if you know Tim, but
I know Tim. Yeah.
Tim is brilliant. I mean, savant like brilliant. So to work for Tim was very demanding. I mean, he was one of those guys that wanted you to work 7 days a week because that's how he ground you out to learn and scout for disease. But I learned a lot off of Tim, so I stayed there for a couple of years. And like I said, landed an assistant's position in Spring Valley, and then got an assistant's position. down
So
at Delaware.
the greatest agronomy mind that you know, what did he bring to the table? What did you learn from him? What agronomy did you learn?
So there were a lot of things I learned from Tim. He'd tell me about scientific reactions and endothermic
Chemistry.
reactions,
Ooh,
and
wow.
and why we syringe and how do we release that heat off the surface, and not to put the water on the surface, how we're cooling the air, but I think really scouting for disease. That was my job, is
That's
to be
huge,
the
right?
first person on the golf course in the morning, and to really know the cycles of the fungicide sprays and how to find annual bluegrass weevil, and where to look for them, and where are the first signs of where they're going to chew, and to find them in the step cut before they get to the
He
fairways.
taught you all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Did you know anything about that beforehand? I mean, had you?
No, not really. No,
Wow,
just
that's
books. So
incredibly valuable.
So Joe was hands-on, grind,
Right.
but Tim was the science behind it and pushing to say, hey, show me where they are, and to be able to take a knife out and say, right here, you cut it open and say, there it is. And
I
it's
can
like,
see,
oh,
or I
good
can see
job.
the
How'd you pick that up?
mycelium floating around. And,
Or yeah, where's what is that? Is that dampening off? Is that pythium? When are you going to start scouting? And he had a rule, the 150 rule, which I don't think I've ever heard really be beyond Tim, but he said the 150 rule. The 150 rule is when temperature and humidity equate to 150 for 3 days or more, every disease in the
It's gonna
world
come
will be active on the soil surface. Go find it.
so temperature and humidity
Combined.
at 150 for 3 days.
So it could be 70 degrees, 90% relative humidity,
right.
160. But that combo of humidity and temperature was an incubation time to say, now it's on.
That's
You
brilliant.
get that.
Think about
I don't think I ever saw that in the textbook, but He'd call stuff like that out all the time and talk
and it
about
worked?
things. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
bingo, all the time. It always works.
Wow, I haven't heard that myself.
You've never heard that?
No, that's
I
brilliant.
can't believe I told you.
Well, yeah,
It's amazing.
that's why we do this.
Yeah, wow.
This is all about me.
Well, that
That's
was
always-
Tim, so I'll give Tim credit where credit's due.
Every day, first thing in the morning, you're on the cart driving around scouting.
Yep.
Wow. For how long did you do that? How long were you there?
Couple of years,
Okay.
2 years. Really, I was finished. So at the time, I was trying to work and go to school. So Concord was like an hour and a half from UMass Amherst. So I'd work
Okay,
for
so
like
you go
4
back and
days, and I'd
forth, yeah.
cram in my classes during the week. Then I'd work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I was trying to do both because I was a man now.
Right.
I'd already graduated. I already taught for a few years, so I was paying for my education, and that was the best way. So I was lucky to have Tim, and probably, hopefully vice versa. And he showed me a lot. So I think, again, having that hands-on mentor that could teach me and push me to find those things.
Yeah.
Because you really got to do it yourself in this business. You can't just rely on textbooks. You got to be out there and do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's the best lessons you can get. But to have a mentor that really knows the science.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, that's the stuff that we're still learning stuff like that. But 150, I'm going to steal from you and probably not give you credit. So I hope you.
well, it's all Tim.
It's all Tim. No, I don't have to give him credit.
So Joe was, professionalism, the look, the attitude.
So what did that bring to your table?
I try to mimic that.
Yeah.
The science I try to mimic from Tim. And I worked for John Adamos at Spring Valley for a short while before he went down to New York. And John taught me work ethic. I'd never met a man that worked.
How do you teach
harder.
work ethic?
Lead by example.
Yeah.
Lead by example. John was the first guy at the course every day and the last guy to leave. And he expected his assistant to be just like that. And
Yeah.
it was a lot to ask, but he was, and it's funny today, I even hear people that talk about John. Sometimes he's at the show. He's at a course in Rhode Island now. And his work ethic still to this day is unbelievable. He's just,
And he's
he's
getting
a
up
special,
there.
breed. Yeah, he's a special breed, but I don't think he sleeps at all. I think he used to drive around at night and check the irrigation heads and make sure they were going off and drive his truck around, and he timed things, and he'd have books, and it was like, Sean, when do you ever sleep? It's like,
Wow.
but having that work ethic.
Was that hard to keep up with as an assistant?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what drove me away from him.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it anymore.
I was going to ask you that. Is that still a viable standard these days?
No, it can't be. It can't be.
Here's the other question on that same thought. How do you vet somebody coming into a shop to have work ethic? I mean, I mean, you can't ask a question. Hey, do you have work ethic? Oh, of course I have work ethic. I mean, how do you vet that? I mean, you've been doing this now for a while, especially in the city. But how do you vet work ethic?
So it's a great question, and really it's simple. You flip a coin, and really every hire is flipping a coin because you're taking a gamble. I mean, you can check references and you might have an inside track to someone's character, but if you don't, it's a gamble. I mean, I was just doing interviews for a project manager that we have a position with the town, and had a lot of great candidates, but you're taking a gamble. I mean, people are trying to sell themselves. You really don't know until they get there to prove themselves. And
Does work ethic still exist?
absolutely, of
All right,
course.
good.
Of course it does. Yeah, no
It's
doubt.
hard to, I mean, I think it goes back to the old adage of hire slow and fire fast. Really take your time hiring somebody. But, you're going to know fairly quickly if they have a work ethic or not. I mean, I tell this story. We had hired somebody to work in our office. First day they come in, half an hour, 40 minutes late. And then the manager that was on site goes, well, we started, oh, you're going to be one of those that are going to look at the clock? Yes, that's your job, And so I happen to call into the office. Says, so how's the new person working out? Oh, we'll talk. I'm like, oh, great. This is
So that's management material for you guys?
yeah,
I mean, that's
101 right there,
you
yeah.
know?
So, I mean, we hired slow and we fired, I think this person lasted maybe 2 weeks. And
Well, I
it's
like that model, Joe.
hire slow,
fire
fire
fast.
fast.
So our motto with the town of Needham is hire slow and fire slow, unfortunately.
Is that because of the city itself?
Yeah, unions
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it
protections.
becomes a little bit different, but
Yeah, it does.
the point
It does.
is still
I
the
wish.
same. As a manager, you're going to know. You don't need 3 months to see somebody.
No.
I mean, you can tell. Especially you've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing it for a long time. you know almost instantly, yeah, this person's not going to make it. You know, and you feel bad, and then you got to go through the steps. And I'll share this as well. I mean, I've had I won't mention any names because he's listening, but I had a young gentleman that came to work, and I'm like driving into work, and I said I'm firing his ass. You know, and I'm 40 minutes into the office, and then I have these stupid little devils on my shoulder, and one of them is like saying, "Yeah, you got to fire." He says, "Lazy, da, da, da." And he goes, "Well, you really haven't helped him. You really have." Oh, shut up, just shut up.
It's some ownership.
And then by the time I get there, I realize, yeah, it's really my fault. It's not his fault. I mean, it's the manager's fault if they're not cutting it. And I mean, but so I sat back and I said, okay, let's really work this hard and let me do the right things, and it worked out extremely well. So it's it's all management skills, and obviously if you do it right, you get people that last a long time and are loyal and work hard and you can trust, which is really what it's all about. So how long were you at the golf course before you left? And was that your last golf course?
No, it wasn't. So I was at Spring Valley a few seasons, and then I was telling the story earlier. A new president came in and fired everybody: myself, the pro, the clubhouse manager, the chef. Well, not one day, but essentially all of us went. And then they call fire. They said I had a contract, so they said, "Oh, we're not going to renew your contract." And the year before, they're like, "Oh, we're going to send a long-term deal." And I thought I was like Jason Tatum at the time, so I was seeing guys jump revent the bigger jobs. So I'm like, I don't want a long-term deal. I didn't. Sure enough, a new president came in, and that was it. So
should have taken the long.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't have, because
at least you would have got some money on it.
Yeah, I would have got.
You would have gotten some cash anyway. They would still kicked your ass out.
Yeah, exactly.
But you would have had money in your pocket.
So I left a high-end private club and took a 9-hole semi-private club right in the city of Boston, Furnace Brook Golf Club, which I was following Jeff Hood from Tom Irwin, and he had done a fabulous job there. Jeff was the golf course superintendent, the chef, the GI, he did everything. So I had real big shoes to fill, and not only because Jeff has like a size 18, 12, Jeff 14, whatever it is.
It's this big.
It's a big shoe, but it was a unique environment, and it kind of really put the wind back in my sail, because I think Spring Valley, I saw that it isn't just the golf course, it's the politics, and I don't want to be in the politics. So that whole experience kind of put a damper on my experience, because up till that, I was riding high in golf. I loved everything. Every day I'd be happy to go to the golf world. But Furnace Brook brought it back because it was a blue-collar club, state police, Boston cops, Quincy cops. It was a real good gang of people, and they were happy, and it was a golf club. There was no swimming pool. It was golf, and they really liked their golf, and it was a real cool, challenging Wayne Styles design. So that's where I finished my career and made the shift into public works, into sports direction.
So why the
shift?
shift?
Yeah, of course. I love golf. I still love golf. When I come to the show, I vie for my retirement job. So,
you want to go back?
It's right next to my house. So Billy Sansone, a friend of mine, I'm like, Billy, he's like,
I'll be there when you're ready to go.
Chris Donadio at Woodland and Newton, he's like, Eddie, I'll pay more. Then I got Dave Johnson at the Country Club in Brookline.
Beautiful.
And Paul at Charles River. So I have these choices.
So you're all around all that.
And I want to get back to golf and not have to worry about being the boss. Just be enjoying being on a team and doing what I love, which is being outside. But why public works? I think my life had changed. After Spring Valley, I was tainted on the private club thing. And I think golf was changing too. When I kind of got out of school, guys were landing jobs, and the way I did it, people were doing that, getting quick superintendent jobs. But I think after Spring Valley, I was fortunate enough to land Furnace Brook, because at that time, I think jobs were starting to be
tighten up.
Tighten
up. What year are we talking about?
2006, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Things were starting to crash.
Seeing the crash, and clubs were closing, and belts were tightening, and I think superintendent jobs were getting cutthroat, where guys that were making big money were on the chopping block for kids to come up and bullseye. So that kind of tainted me. But Furnace Brook put the wind back in my sail, because it was really a true golf club, and it was a challenging place to manage. They played golf year round, like they never closed, on their greens year round, and they had crappy
Really?
color greens that
In
were
Boston,
riddled
they're
with
playing year-round.
year-round. Still to this day, nobody was going to stop them from playing golf on the green. There was no temps at Furnace Brook. You had to have
You're on
rolled
the greens.
green. Yeah, you were on the greens. So it was
No
it was
pressure.
So one day my tour rep came and said, Ed, I know you live in Needham, Massachusetts. I had married my wife that I'd met in Spring Valley. She was a golf pro there. So at least I got that
Oh,
from
I didn't
Spring
know that
Valley.
either.
Yeah, my wife Tammy. And she
I
was
didn't know
at
she was a
Shada
golf
Country
pro.
Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Former.
Yeah.
Yep, she was a golf pro.
Can she kick your ass in the golf
Oh,
course?
well, she missed the LPGA tour by 1 stroke.
Oh, you're kidding
She
me.
went on a full ride to UNC,
Oh, man.
Greensboro, and Becky Moore. Girl, she played with her on the tour now, but she missed by 1 stroke. Imagine that. And I was there, Joe, when that happened. And I don't think she's ever played golf afterwards. She's trained and she doesn't like, golf is like dead to her after. And imagine that your whole life, you
man.
build up to be a
Heart's broken.
well,
and-
yeah, it was a lot. So,
Tour rep
Tour rep
gets you
shows
involved.
up and says, Needham is looking for a Parks and Forestry Superintendent. Lance is retiring. He was there for a couple of decades. I think it'd be a great opportunity. And I thought he was crazy. I'm like, Nat, I said, I don't want to be a public works guy. He said, well, he goes, it's a good job. He goes, they have a lot of money, a lot of resources, and they're spending a lot of money. They just built 2 stadiums, and I think it'd be a great opportunity. He said, you put a resume at it. So that's what I did. Put a resume at it, and didn't hear back for like 3 months. And I called the town just out of the blue to HR and said, hey, I hadn't heard. Did you guys get? And they said, oh, you have an interview tomorrow. And I said, well,
You called them?
Yeah,
and
I called them, and I said,
and they forgot to call
they
you?
said, oh, we sent you an email. I said, you didn't send me anything. I haven't heard anything. So that should have been a red flag right there from municipal world. But it wasn't. And and I took the job, and it's been 14 years now that I've been. And it's nice because at first, there's a stigma of public works, but public works is changing. We're doing amazing things
I don't know
across the
that there is
country.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so fortunate for so many different reasons. The most is I live in the town of Needham.
Yeah.
With my young
You're
family.
the mayor, aren't you? I mean, that pretty much.
I don't
everybody
want
in
to be
this
the
town-
mayor.
Everybody
but I
knows
don't want
who
to be
you
the
are.
mayor.
Hey, Eddie, come here. I need my
Pretty
tree.
much,
Yeah,
pretty much. But to give back to the town you live in, to see your kids growing up in, is incredibly valuable and so rewarding.
And you're home at night most of the time?
Yeah, I do a lot of night meetings.
Yeah.
I've kind of, I get a lot of projects going on,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm always
Well,
at
you're
planning
always
board,
working.
a select
Yeah.
board. But it does
It's
give
your own damn
quality of
fault.
life.
You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're choosing to do
Yeah,
something.
yeah, you're right.
You know, right now, I can't tell you how many guys in the golf industry, get frustrated. I mean, the politics, the time, and they love to find a job like yours. And I've interviewed on this podcast a number of guys that have gone from golf into public works and love it. I mean, the security is there, the challenge is a little bit different, the politics are a little different. Not that I'm sure you have some great politics stories to tell, but so what's the day to day? I mean, so when you got there, what was the day to day? You had to have a pretty big learning curve just to figure out, where the bathroom is and what you're expected and who the power structure is. And I mean, it must have been a pretty unique change.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you my first day. I gave you the Joe Ripka story about the golf cart. So my first day at Public Works was the assistant director took me for a ride in his car. He drove me around the town and said, "Oh, that's a water treatment plant. This, that, park, but." And
Did you know any of this? I mean, did you?
well, I did because I lived in town, but I didn't know the inner workings because I just
yeah.
would go to the golf course and come
Yeah.
home and do the baby stroller and be happy in my little world
yeah, exactly.
and work a lot at the golf club. So I didn't really pay mind to the community as much. And so it was I didn't know where all the sewer pump stations were and the water treatment plant. So we went on this whirlwind tour. And then he brought me back to the office and he threw me a key ring with like 4,000 keys. I swear to God, it looked like a
the
jail
size
key
of a
ring.
basketball.
And he said, here's your keys, here's your office. And he said, oh yeah, by the way, he said, the town just built these fields for like $4 million and the field up here is dead and has a huge sinkhole in the outfield and we need it ready in like 2 weeks. And he said, I heard you're the guy, you're a big golf guy. He goes,
Oh, God.
you can get it done for us. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, you check it out.
And you knew nothing of this prior?
No, nothing at all. I'm like, oh my goodness. And he was right. It was all dead. It just spent $1 million+ on it.
This is
And
a
it was
baseball field.
A baseball field, 90-foot premier baseball field with a massive sinkhole in the back. And I just said, oh my God. So yeah, that was kind of how I started. So I kind of learned on the fly, to say the very least.
God.
So
I've
going
never heard
back
that either.
to mentors and learning on the fly and not being afraid, before I got the job, I just said to a couple people, who's in sports turf? I just know golf guys, and I know a lot of golf guys, but I don't know anything about sports turf. And they mentioned like 3 names. They said Brian Lucini, and I know Brian from the golf business. So they said, Brian, he's like the king of sports turf. He works with Tom Irwin. Okay. They said Dennis Brolin. They said that's the sod father. You got to talk to Dennis.
The sod father, yes.
And then sod father, I guess the sod father said Jack Smithgall. They said those are the 3 guys. If you want 3 guys to just
And Jack's here today at the show.
all 3 of them. All 3
I didn't see the sod father. I know Brian's here.
Gave them all a hug today, and those are the first 3 guys I called. They said, Brian, I want to introduce myself. I want to.
So you didn't really know Brian other than
Just meeting him, just from his brother being a golf coach.
yeah.
Brian was down in Laurel Lane in Rhode Island,
Yeah.
so I knew him through the network of golf course.
But he
I
was
know-
already at Tom Irwin at this.
He was. He had been a Toro before Tom Irwin, so I
Yeah.
know Brian had been in sales for a while. But people said, talk to Brian. He knows people. He knows,
Yeah.
So Brian and I met, and the rest was history. And like I said, Brian and I started working right off the bat. I had already been working with Chris Peterson and Tom Irwin for decades before.
Oh, at the golf courses. Yeah. Okay.
So it was kind of a natural fit where I knew the company. So it was just getting to know Brian and learned so much from him. And then I called Dennis and Jack, and I remembered the outfield that was failed. I said, "Hey,
Jack
Dennis,
came in.
let's
we
meet
need
at
some
this
sod."
field." And he said, "All right, we'll get a plan together." And Dennis and I think Jack at the time came up with a spec to fix things and put it together. And literally like 3 weeks later, it was like the best piece of turf in town. And people were like, "Whoa."
What caused the sinkhole? Do you know?
Oh yeah, I just finally fixed it after 14 years. We have a
It didn't take
4-foot
long.
drainage line. Well, it's a 4-foot drainage line that takes all the neighborhoods that are above this field complex and outlets it into a wetland. So
Oh.
when they were building the field, they crimped the pipe, and the pipe basically had a vortex. So every time we'd have a surcharge drainage event, the flow of the flow would suck the sands into this open void in the coupling, and the field would actually collapse into the pipe, and then the sand would go through the pipe and dump into a wetland. And we had it's funny because I used to joke with people, they call it the reservoir. So every year we stock it with trout for trout fishing during the season.
yeah.
So much sand had dumped into the reservoir. I said one day, wow, the stripers are out there. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, there's stripers out there. It's so salty from all the sand. They're like, maybe we should fix that. I'm like, well, yeah, we probably should have fixed
And that's how you discovered that that's what had happened, was just by seeing the sand come through? And
Well, we discovered it because the field I have pictures of me with Dennis and others where I'm standing in the voids up, 6 feet
neck,
up
to your
to
neck,
my neck, and the pipe would be there. So we'd wrap the pipe, we'd fix it. We fixed it with flowable fill. We fixed it with Band-Aids through the years, but this past summer we did a full corp.
so that
full depth
field was
renovation.
getting those sinkholes year after year?
year after year.
So you're always fixing it?
Oh yeah, we were
Wow.
chasing it. Yep.
Wow, that's a hell of a first day.
Yeah, that was pretty
Come
good.
on, by the way,
I love the keys too. The 4
keys,
million.
yeah.
No explanation as to what they go.
No, there's no.
They'll figure it out.
You gotta go
Yeah, it
through
wasn't like his
7,000
spreadsheet
keys
and
for
then
every
nothing.
door.
It's just
Yeah.
Welcome
Oh, that's
to
not
the
this
team.
one. That's not this one.
And I said, you know what, Joel? I still have the keys to that.
Of course you
I
do.
never even looked at them.
But they're
Never
probably
even-
all labeled now, right?
No,
Oh, no.
I I just threw them in a drawer. I never looked at them again. I said, I don't need
If the
those.
door's not open,
Yeah.
I'm not going through.
Yeah.
So what's day to day like in the city? I mean, what is, and tell us the story as if you're talking to a superintendent that might entertain, a city parks job or any kind of a municipality job. What's the big difference? Well, first of all, the best question is, what's the big difference politically between golf and what you're doing? Politics is still there, but it's probably different.
Well, it's different. Golf course politics can make or break your career.
Well,
I've been
President comes in and fires everybody.
with no explanation,
Right.
and you're an employee at will. So I think politics in this career is I have street credit, I have select boards,
Yeah.
I have protections of layers of people that
Security.
who know me in a town meeting form of government. So there's a security there. But there's politics, select board members come and go.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with.
And
Just got to do your job,
Select board members are just citizens?
Elected.
Elected. Oh, they're elected. Okay, so these are elected positions. All right, so they come in with an agenda at times.
Oh yeah, they all do.
Yeah.
But we have a town manager form of government. So our select board are the visionaries. The town
Gotcha.
manager enacts the vision, and her responsibilities are the department department managers like myself. So day to day, so politics is there, yeah, of course. I mean, the big thing with local governments, we're really lucky. Our town manager, Kate Fitzpatrick, has been there a couple decades, and she is like
Elected?
famous throughout the country as one of the best known town
you
managers. She
told
has
me this, yeah.
podcasts and she's an
Everybody has a
amazing
podcast.
Oh, yeah, everybody. I mean, but she's incredible. We're lucky to have her in that continuity of service. A lot of communities that I talk to, there's ups and downs and no continuity, but we have long-standing capital plans. We think 10, 15, 20, 30 years along because we have roadways, drainage, treatment plans, but our capital planning is second to none, which I think sets us apart. We're a AAA bonded community. I think there's 100 in America.
Wow.
Which allow us to borrow monies at better terms, all these things that allow us to do incredible things, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects. And
that's all through good government management?
yes, so
it's doable. So is that what
it
we're
is. Kate's assistant, Dave Davison, our head of finance, is like Rain Man. So you gotta have the right people that know and have that continuity of service, like I said, and we have that in Needham. So to join that team has been nice because it's opened up my career to so many things. I mean, 14 years later, I've probably done $100 million worth of construction projects because
You
of
and I
that
talked about
first
that over the years.
sinkhole. When people saw that right away, Joel, they said, wow, maybe he can do more. Maybe this guy can grow grass. And all of a sudden I said, we can do anything.
That's a two-edged sword, though.
Yeah.
Now you don't have any free time at all because you're the guy.
But it's
every
nice.
sinkhole in town,
Yeah.
you fix it.
I think of Frederick Law Olmsted and the mark you can leave on a community and have a vision and plant trees and just see things as that you could see it develop over 100 years. And that's pretty fascinating stuff to affect for a community. So,
what title do you report to? Do you report to, you don't report to Kate, do you?
Director of Public Works.
Okay.
Who reports to Kate. So I have.
Okay, so you've got a layer between there, but you guys are all working together at some point now. Yep. So you and I have talked over the years. You do a lot of tree stuff, and some pretty interesting tree stuff. I mean, sometimes it's removal, and sometimes it's not because you can't. I think we've had this conversation. Yes. What's the depth of that part of your job? I mean, you got you must have a zillion trees in that town.
Yeah.
Are you responsible for anything on public property?
Yeah.
In the whole town, every tree.
How
many are? Any idea?
Oh yeah, tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
Yeah, we inventoried, and I think we had over 20.
So you did inventory
just on the public properties, not the woods, like going into the woods. But
can you take trees down easily?
Well, I'm the tree warden, so I can do that.
So you're the guy.
I got a badge.
Exactly. So you're zipping around with your chainsaw, and I can do whatever I want.
It's funny you ask about trees because back in the golf days, I was part of that Met crowd that, we're using Arbor Pro and these programs to tell our greens committees that we have to cut every tree down on the golf course to bring it back to the Tillen House design. And I mauled more trees than I'm proud to say of. And it's funny now, it's come to bite me in the ass because now I'm the protector of trees for communities. So, and I realize the incredible value trees have for our earth and.
Sure.
And, so yeah, we're heavily involved with trees. I'm a certified arborist. I'm the president of the Mass Tree Wardens Foresters Association, the oldest in the country.
Really? With all your free time?
Yeah. Actually, we just had a conference. We had speakers from all over the world. Dr. Francesco Farini from Italy, from Florence, Italy, was our keynote. And just incredible.
Did you know anything about trees before you came to this job?
I knew how to cut them down and how to call alpine tree in Westchester. They got a big contract.
Get these all out of here, will you?
So no, I had to learn it. When I went to UMass, like I said, I had a 4-year degree in Bachelor of Arts. But when I went back for my turf degree, I didn't go to Stock. I didn't go to get an associate's.
Right.
Even though my advisor at UMass said, "Oh, you come back and get an associate," I said, "Well, can't I just get a bachelor's in the same amount of time? All my gen eds are done." She's like, "Oh, I never would have thought of that." I'm like, "Oh, and I just get a BS and an agronomy," and she's like, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to take all your courses kind of stacked." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm smart."
Did you ever take any tree classes?
Never took a tree class, so learning trees was all new to me, and it took me 3 times to become a certified arborist. I took the exam. It's funny because the exam to pass was 78. First time I took it, I got a 77.6. And they said, "That's a flunk." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, you round up, it's a 78. That's a passing grade." They said, "We round down." I said, I never in my life have heard said you round down to a set. So they grabbed my money a couple times. I finally passed. I did get an A at the last time. You'd be proud of me.
I'm very proud.
But,
You were 0.4 away from passing.
Yeah.
So that's like my
Around it.
wife
Yeah, it's
making
pretty
it on
much,
one
yeah.
truck.
Just-
So this is in the family.
Yeah, it's just the blood.
Did she laugh?
I don't even.
Probably
I told her, but I was too embarrassed.
Yeah,
so,
probably. But it's good. It's family stuff, you know.
So, yeah.
So you had to learn all the ID. You had to learn,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Latin
all,
names,
all- oh man.
growth habits. and
Yeah.
Type of lead
I
patterns.
remember those classes at Penn State when I was there, and yeah, that was actually I loved them. That was tree
I
work
love it too.
was
I'll
fun.
tell you, tree works is incredible. Working around
Yeah.
trees, and again, it was tough because I didn't have that background. But like Timmy at Concord Country Club, I have some great certified arborists that work with me. My forestry foreman, Michael Logan, is like a savant with trees. So
Oh wow.
we'd go out and we'd just drive and we'd walk, and I'd ask him question after question. He's an encyclopedia, and tomorrow night he's getting a big award in Needham. He's getting put in the Golden Book of Deeds for the Exchange Club, and I got to give a speech for him. But
Wow, that seems to all be you doing. You're just doing
yeah,
speeches all the time.
speeches
I
all
like
the
that.
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Now
podcasts and speeches.
podcast and speech. You're just a celebrity.
like
I told you you're going to be mayor someday.
Yeah.
So what's the day to day on trees?
Yeah.
I mean, are you going around and when a tree's looking bad, you're fixing it, or you're pruning them? Or, I mean, are you
I'm
doing
not
anything?
doing much, Joel. So
So you're just
now
kind of making sure that
I'm just managing. So again, for public works as a superintendent, I have staff. I have a union staff. So I have a forestry division, I have a parks division, I have a foreman of parks, I have a foreman of forestry. They're both incredibly
yeah.
valuable human beings that I pride a lot in their work, that have a lot of pride in their work, and I just follow their lead. And really, Mike runs a great forestry division, which is planting trees, pruning trees, removing trees, surveying trees,
Yeah.
educating people about trees, doing arbor days, and I kind of ride their coattails. The park side, again, I think I try to just act as the leader, but I don't really get
Let 'em do their
involved
thing. Yeah.
with checking trees myself. I'll just kind of talk to Mike and say, hey, I got these work orders, and he'll take
Yeah.
care of things and let me know. We meet once a week, and they fill me in on how the week went. So
I live in the smallest city in New Jersey, and there's a tree commission, and you can't touch a tree in the front of your house that's on your property.
yeah, we're going there.
without having you or whoever
That's a
you're-
little much.
Yeah, and it's and I probably will get into a lot of trouble for saying this. I won't mention any names, but I had a building in town, and it was right on one of the main streets, and a big truck came in and knocked one of the branches, and it's just hanging there, right? And I'm like, if I had to call the tree commission, it's going to take me, a week before they can even come. In the meantime, all the cars are getting scratched up and people are screaming and bitching at me. And so I talked to an authority within my town whose name shall remain nameless. I said, hey, is that tree mine? That's yours. Right away, it's yours.
Spoken like a good tree warden.
Exactly. So I said, well,
Well, it's yours now. It's in the road hitting cars. Now it's yours.
and he knew it was a big problem.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, so he goes, well, look, off the record,
You didn't hear from me.
you didn't hear from me. I just go and cut it off. So I literally, in the dark of night, pull up on my pickup truck because I couldn't reach to it, got my tree, so I'll cut it down, threw it in the bed, and then drove off, cut it off into small
Oh, you
pieces.
should have had a podcast of that. That would have been a kid
Exactly.
story, too.
Now I'd probably be arrested as
Yeah.
a tree warden, but I mean, it was one of those really big safety things. I mean, it was hanging down on the sidewalk and in the street. I mean, it wasn't.
Where do you live?
And in a famous little town in New Jersey that has to stay nameless.
Okay.
Now they'll know about
Yeah,
this story.
right, yeah. So-
But it's the smallest city in New Jersey, so you can Google it and find out. But it was the politics was interesting, and it's like it's a joke because everybody takes it real seriously. Oh, you can't touch that tree. I was like, well, the things that and it was very funny because I did it at night on the back of my pickup truck, and I cut everything into small little pieces and put it into a black plastic bag and put it out on the street so that the dead body was hidden.
We're thinking of mafia. Or
Yeah,
something like
exactly.
that.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I feel really
New
dirty.
Jersey, yeah.
I feel really dirty right now. And but that's not what you're going through, I assume. You're not that kind of mafia in your tree work. I mean, that's got to be a whole different world. I mean,
Good
coming
world,
from that.
though. It's like so. I mean, the tree part of my job is so rewarding.
Yeah, you and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
You can just see you kind of lighting up.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the management. I mean, it sounds like it's a big ass job. You got a lot of people under you managing. You got a lot of balls in the air, and you're literally juggling elephants with this. I'm sure. How many people are under you?
Yeah, so I'm one of 16 full-time employees, and then we bring in about 8 seasonal laborers.
Okay.
So we go up to about 25, 26 in the summertime.
That you're managing essentially, or directly or
Yeah,
indirectly.
my people, like
Yeah.
I said, I've been there 14 years. So in the early days, yeah, I was very hands-on in building my teams, but my teams, they know the why. They have
Yeah.
the vision. They know what I like. They know
know
my
the why.
nuances.
I love it.
And we're all kept. Even though we're public works, and some people have that stigma, we get it done. We love to stripe up the fields and aerate and do our cultural practices, and have beautiful looking fields and safe fields. And they all get that.
So a city can have good quality
Oh
turf
yeah,
and not look like the dirt ball that's across the street from some
absolutely,
houses. Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, it's amazing to see, I go all over the country and I work with municipalities, and some of the fields are just, they're dangerous.
Yeah,
They're just
absolutely.
dangerous. I mean, the liability
Yep.
concerns are one of the conversations we've had.
Yeah.
I remember working with Fairfax County Parks in Virginia, and their biggest concern was liability. And
It should be.
Yeah, and we ended up going
should
through and soil testing them all, balancing their soils, and they started using some of our stuff. And one of the things that I could never get out of the director was, how much money did they save from the liability concerns? And it was, I'm guessing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Kids getting hurt because
Yep.
there was no grass, rocks in the field. I mean, and you go to a lot of municipalities, and I don't mean any disrespect because I know it's a hard job, but and some of the fields are just they're embarrassing.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and I've seen your fields, and it looks as professional as it can possibly be. Is what you guys are doing, and that's doable
Oh yeah.
easily enough with the
Not easily enough, but I
well,
think
but you can
we-
manage it and get it done.
yeah, well, there's a will, there's a way. And
Yeah.
like you said, I think we were an example of what you said, the dirt in the fields. And
When you got there,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah,
Well,
we were
big holes in
train-
the fields.
we were train wreck. Yeah, we had sinkholes and we had dirt in the fields, and we had a defeated mindset that
Yeah.
we just couldn't get it done. It was impossible. And I remember my crew telling me, well, what are you, Martin Luther King? You got to drain. You're never gonna do that. I said, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it then some. And you're gonna,
and that's
gonna go.
exactly what I hear a lot of times. You just can't get it done. There's too
Yeah, it's
many. There's
impossible.
too much.
So
There's
watch.
not enough money. There's not enough people. How do you do it? What's the secret?
Yeah.
What do you tell somebody at another municipality?
Well, I tell people, keep it simple. If you want to soar with the eagles, you can't be stuck on the ground with a bunch of turkeys. So you gotta get the turkeys out of the
Yeah.
get them off the roost
off
and
the
say, hey
bus, yeah.
guys, we're gonna have success, and trust me, you're gonna have to put some
So
faith.
it's a lot of it is people.
It's all people, and I think I was fortunate because I think like my Toro rep that brought me to this opportunity said, hey, the town made some investments in 2 big complexes, and they did. They spent millions. And the town didn't spend millions. The fields were so bad in town that the people of the town were so frustrated with the company line of we can't do it, we have no resources, that they raised millions of dollars and formed a not-for-profit group called the Needham Sports Council, and they designed and gifted 2 brand new field complexes to the town to the tune of like $10 million or something.
They raise that much money.
There were some very influential people that knew even more influential people, and they raised that
Were
much
you
money.
involved in getting that process?
Never
going?
even heard about it. I was in the golf and just going back and forth to the golf course. But a year after they had built these complexes, when I came in, and they had failed already dramatically in dramatic style.
Yeah,
And those people weren't too happy, Joel.
I can imagine.
To say,
And I'm
hey,
sure
town,
they probably had some
we
influence.
gave you a gift horse and you screwed it up. Get your act together. So when I came aboard, not only were there sinkholes, but there were other things, other problems to fix. And I said, we can fix all this, and we'll build some let's do some blood work. Let's do some
Do a little
soil.
soil
Let's
test
start,
concept,
let's
yeah.
figure out what we're dealing with, and let's take it back to step 0. Like I said, we got to bring it back to 0. What are our expectations? What are our resources? How are we going to figure this out? And there were a lot of people, and they said, you can't do it. Oh, it can't be done. Even my own staff. Oh, why even bother? You're wasting your time. I said, hey, life's too short to be defeated. I live in this town. My kids are going to play in these fields. They're going to be just like the golf course that looked beautiful that I left. We're going to make it like that. And we're going to show people, this community, that we're going to be the best around. And then other communities are going to want to be us, and everyone around us is going to start looking like us. And that's what we did. And I think, again, the opportunity of the fundraiser that said, hey, that town, you better figure out, hire a guy that knows what they're doing to get the fields back. And 2, I think the sinkhole, that challenge of 2 weeks, we got the season starting, and then people said, whoa, if you can do it there, maybe we can start asking what else he sees. And I said, yeah, this park, let's do that. And then I said, hey, I got a 10-year capital plan. And they just said, well, how much do you need this year? 2 million, 3 million, 4 million.
This is the city, or is this
City.
This,
Yeah, the
okay.
finance committee, the town manager, they said, what's next? The Park and Rec Commission, the people that had jurisdiction, the schools, hey, what can you do with our school fields? They said, you're next, we'll get you next, and we can only do one.
This could all lead
field.
to mayorship. I'm telling you.
No, I'd rather be president.
There you go.
I wrote myself in yesterday. It was Super Tuesday.
Exactly. Tell me again about that that funder, the booster group that raised all that money.
Yeah.
That has to be a lot of pressure. I mean, I can't imagine they're not coming at you. Well, although you've kind of proven yourself now, but early on when you were coming into this job, I mean, that had to be a lot of people yakking at you and pushing you and yelling and bitching about how bad it was. I mean, is that
It wasn't really them, because I think they saw the value that I could bring, and they saw right away that I could fix things. So they were just thankful, because I think a lot of them were wealthy guys that were influential in country club. Well, they kind of heard. They said, "Oh, this guy's been on a golf course, and he knows everything."
He can grow grass.
I think it was more the groups that were kind of bitching and moaning. Soccer, baseball. When are you going to do our field? So it was just saying, "Hey guys, why don't we just all sit? You can throw your moonbeam at me, then I can program them in. We'll do the, we'll start the worst problem first, and then we'll walk down to every pony league field, and we'll just, it's capacity and money and support."
Yeah. What was the biggest headache when you came on board? What was the biggest frustration or the biggest challenge that you had to overcome when you first got there?
I think red tape. I mean, after, I tell people, as a golf course superintendent, I was the skipper of a speedboat. I could talk to my president of the club and say, hey, I just got a $2 million, DGM number to go do drainage, bring Mario Poirier to do the drainage and go, sign it.
Sure.
There you go. Get it done. All right. Thanks, Alan. Get into the town. It's you're skipper of a cruise ship, so all you can do is slightly turn the wheel and say, and just say 20 years down the line, that's where we're going to be. We're going to be in the Caribbean. It's going to be cherry, but right now we're in the Arctic and the water's choppy. But let's just turn the wheel a little bit. And the red tape involved, in the planning, and the budgeting, and the salesmanship to go to different committees and boards to build that track record of successes that will lead eventually to even further ease of work to get all the things done.
So I'm sure still to this day, friends in the golf course business are saying, hey, is this an avenue that I should consider?
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're still excited about them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially knowing the guys that I know in the golf business and how smart and talented and hardworking and the things they could do in communities. And I think I was one of the first guys that made the jump. But since I've come aboard, there's been a dozen golf guys.
Have you been hiring golf guys?
Yeah. A couple guys in my career from the golf. Yeah, actually, Brandon Stivaleta was from Norfolk. That was a former employee of Kevin Corvino. He's been with me almost the whole 14 years.
So you still Kev's the guy?
Yeah. Well, when Kevin left Norfolk, I turned to...
right as he jumped. Okay, good.
Hopefully I'll see him today.
I was going to say, I haven't seen Kev yet.
I saw Lenny, his boss. So.
Oh, that's too fun.
You know Kev.
Yeah, very well.
Oh, he's a family man now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's right. That's good for him. I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Oh, my. That changes life a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Changed my life. I think that going back to why Public Works, I think it was for multiple reasons. It was an opportunity. I didn't think I'd ever go there. At first, I'm like, I'm not a DPW guy. I don't fit that mold,
But you do look good in the yellow vest and stuff.
And I get a pretty good crack, too, when I'm bending over to do something. At least my daughter said,
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So, but I think it was change of life. I had 2 babies at the time. And I said, security, retirement, pension. So, there's a lot of huge bonuses and quality of life. Like, as a golf course superintendent, no offense, you're always kind of on edge, the whole season. It wasn't like you never really
appreciate it. Nobody's ever appreciates them. That's
so I mean,
rarely.
And if you get a high bar, you're always looking. I used to hate to. The only time I liked the course was right before a big tournament when everything was perfect, just perfect, because that was like the day. Look at today. It's like, but after that, it was just like people taking divots out of your course, and you're like, so.
What's the hardest part about Public Works?
Everything.
I know you love snow plowing. That's a fun thing.
I don't plow, so it's funny.
Oh, you don't? Okay. I thought you did.
No. So when I got hired, that was one of the few things. So they're like,
you said that your
so
contract
they're like,
plowing.
Now I laugh 14 years later. Today you hire and people have terms, and I want this, I want that. They can get anything
Yeah,
for jobs nowadays. So back then, my terms were, they said, hey, what about snow plowing? I said, yeah, I plowed for decades at the golf course. I managed plow accounts. That's another whole world that I used to do on the side for a mafia guy in Boston. But so I said, I don't know. I said, I don't want to plow. I said, oh, you have no responsibilities for plowing. They said, superintendents, you just do your job, but your staff works for hire. Everybody said, all right, yeah, good. So recently, all the old guard, it says retired, and we have a new boss, and they're trying to get me into the plow. I say, whoa. When I was hired, I had a stipulation. I don't know.
My contract.
Yeah, it's in my contract.
Yeah,
so I got that, and
Paragraph 7.
I had a son that was just about to be born, and I'll never forget. I said, hey, it's a big change for me in taking the job. I said, I got a son that's going to be born, and I had a lot of vacation built up for the golf course. They said, hey, listen, we're going to give you 5 sick days for when the baby's born.
Whoa.
I said, really? And they said, 5 days. You can take 5 days off. I said, all right. So that's pretty good. Now, paternity, are you aware of these laws now?
Yes.
6 months paid or whatever it is.
For you.
For
anybody.
Anybody.
Yeah,
any
for either party, either side.
Either one.
6 months.
5 days.
Wow,
and that was a
amazing.
big thing. I was happy to get the 5 days.
Well, times they are changing, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm thinking about trying to find a new job just to renegotiate.
Or just have another kid.
Yeah,
Have another kid. You get 6.
I'm not Eddie Downing. So I've got a 6-1 on the way. Wow.
Dude, I got to say, it's been a real pleasure. I love talking with you. I love
Same
hanging
to you.
out with you. I hate to say this, but we're done, and we're going to hang up and go from there.
All
But
right.
I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank
You and I are going to go down to the show and enjoy that. But if you haven't signed up yet, or at least told us who you are, please do, so that we can send you information, and you get to hear great stories from people like Eddie Olsen at the city of Needham, and hopefully I'll see you many, many more times, and maybe we can get back on the road somewhere. But
Yeah, no doubt.
thanks, my friend. Appreciate it, as always.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.